For the most wild yet homely narrative which I am about to tell, I neither expect nor solicit belief. Yet, mad I am not. I was especially fond of animals, and was indulged by my parents with a great variety of pets. Pluto, this was my cat's name, was my favorite pet and playmate. I grew, day by day, more moody, more irritable, more regardless of the feelings of others. My pets, of course, were made to feel the change in my disposition. For Pluto, however, I still retained sufficient regard to restrain me from maltreating him. One night, returning home, much intoxicated, from one of my haunts about town, I fancied that the cat avoided my presence. I seized him, when, affrighted at my violence, he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. I took a penknife, opened it, and deliberately cut out one of his eyes from his socket. When reason returned with the morning, when I had slept off the fumes of the night's debauch, I experienced a sentiment of half horror, half of remorse, for the crime of which I had been guilty. One morning, in cool blood, I slipped a noose about the cat's neck and hung it to the limb of a tree, hung it with tears streaming from my eyes, and with the bitterest remorse at my heart. Hung it because I knew it had loved me, and because I felt it had given me no reason of offense. Hung it because I knew that in doing so I was committing a sin, a deadly sin that would so jeopardize my immortal soul as to place it, if such a thing were possible, even beyond the reach of the infinite mercy of the most merciful and most terrible God. On the night of the day on which this cruel deed was done, I was aroused from sleep by the cry of fire. About the last remaining wall, a dense crowd were collected, and many persons seemed to be examining a particular portion of it with very minute and eager attention. I approached and saw, as if graven in bas-relief upon the white surface, the figure of a gigantic cat. There was a rope about the animal's neck. One night my attention was suddenly drawn to some black object, reposing upon the head of one of the immense hogsheads of gin or of rum. It was a black cat, a very large one, fully as large as Pluto, and closely resembling him in every respect but one. This cat had a large splotch of white hair. When it reached the house, it domesticated itself at once, and became immediately a great favorite with my wife. The mark of white hair of which I have spoken, and which constituted the sole visible difference between the strange beast and the one I had destroyed. It was now the representation of an object that I shuddered to name, and for this, above all, I loathed and dreaded, and would have rid myself of the monster had I dared. It was now, I say, the image of a hideous, of a ghastly thing, of the gallows. One day my wife accompanied me, upon some household errand, into the cellar of an old building which our poverty compelled us to inhabit. The cat followed me down the steep stairs, and, nearly throwing me headlong, exasperating me into madness. Uplifting an axe, I aimed a blow at the animal, and buried the axe in her brain. She fell dead upon the spot. Next step was to look for the beast which had been the cause of so much wretchedness, for I had, at length, firmly resolved to put it to death. This hideous murder accomplished, I set myself forthwith, and with entire deliberation, to the task of concealing the body. For a purpose such as the cellar was well adapted. Its walls were loosely constructed. The wall did not present the slightest appearance of having been disturbed.
Oh, hi. Is there a problem?
Yeah.
Hi. There's nothing here. And there's nothing. You can even come out here. There's nothing.
Cat?
Oh, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
Look at how sturdy my walls are built. There's nothing.
Upon its head, with solitary eye of fire, sat the hideous beast whose craft had seduced me into murder, and whose informing voice had consigned me to the hangman. I had walled the monster up within the tomb.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? You chuck it on that one, you chuck it on this one, you chuck it on your mother and you chuck it on your father, you chuck it on your brother.